I've not reviewed many OnePlus devices, but this one did catch my eye, especially because of how gorgeous it looks in this specific color. But the more important question to me is, how does this sound? And before I get into that, let's jump straight into how this is built. If you've unboxed a set of OnePlus earphones before, you are not going to be greeted with anything new. The box is pretty straightforward with red accents on it. You get the earphones in the case and a red cables card, small and large ear tips with mediums already on the earphones, a rather short charging cable which is sadly the norm now, and you get the literature. Moving on to the case, this splendid blue color was just too tempting to buy over the metallic grey one. Everything is more or less black now, and this really does set itself apart. It does look and feel quite premium thanks to its matte finish, which won't show scratches and scuffs anytime soon, and the debossed OnePlus branded logo does make you think that this is 2 or 3 times more expensive than what it really is. The branding has a mirror-like finish, so is quite reflective. The rear of the case has a USB-C charging slot, and the front has a tiny LED which will let you know the case's battery life. Moving on to the earphones, they've chosen to go for a chrome-like finish on these buds, which can be a fingerprint magnet over time. It does look great when you first open it, but I'm not a fan of seeing them smudged, so I usually wipe them down before placing them back in the case. The inner side of the earphones that sits in your ear has a matte finish, and a part of the stem has a metallic finish to it, which is the touch and slide area for commands. The soft silicone ear tips are comfortable to have in your ear for longer listening sessions, and also have a meshing within it to catch any dirt and debris to prevent it from entering into the inner meshing. This is a neat long-term design to ensure the inners don't get damaged over time. If you plan on using these in the gym or happen to get caught in the rain, these should be more than capable of handling those settings thanks to its IP55 rating. This comes with active noise cancelling, Bluetooth version 5.3. It has multi-device pairing and also touch as well as slide controls. If you do want to control the finer aspects of these earphones, you can control it via the Hey Melody app. The app shows you the earbud and case's battery levels and the ANC controls as well. The noise cancellation has a smart, max, moderate and mild option. You can select smart if you want it to adjust to different environments automatically. Switching to off will switch off ANC, and switching to transparency mode will let in all the noises around you, so you're more aware of your surroundings. This will help during any runs or walks. Then you have the Sound Master EQ section, which I'll speak about in the chapter about sound. The golden sound option is something you might be familiar with, since it has made an appearance in other earphones I've reviewed in the past. It's better you do a earbud fit test before you do this, since you will need a proper seal. It'll scan your ear canals and you'll have to do a hearing test to get a personalized sound profile. So it's worthwhile doing this later at night in a very quiet environment if you want this to do a proper reading. Then you get OnePlus 3D audio, which is also familiar. If you want a little more expansion for your audio consumption, be it with your movies or music, you can switch this on. It will give you the illusion of a wider stage, but it will thin out your music a bit. Then you get a game mode, which you can switch on if you plan on gaming or watching movies. It does make a difference with lip sync when it's on, so it's best to keep it on when you're consuming any visual content. Then you get a dual connectivity mode, which works pretty seamlessly. This is great if you want to be connected to your computer and phone for calls or media consumption, because it's instantaneous and the earphones swap back to your phone if you do get a phone call that comes through. For media consumption, there is no auto handover if you play content on the other device. You'll have to pause your content on the primary device before the audio starts feeding through the secondary one, and vice versa. Then you get a earbud fit test, which is there to ensure you've got the right ear tips on. It'll play back a beach environment and the mics check to see if there's any leakage to ensure you're wearing the right tip size, which always makes a difference to your audio. Then you get a Find My Earbuds mode, which is always welcome. When you play this mode back, the earphones let out a beeping sound, so you can find them if they've fallen somewhere under or in a sofa near you. This will only work if the earbuds are in Bluetooth range. And you get a firmware update version as well for whenever there are any updates for these earphones. Moving on to the earbuds controls. Both left and right buds can take on multiple functions similarly, but straight out of the box, a single tap isn't assigned to anything, but you can select it to play and pause your media. A double tap will take you to the next song, or you can assign it to play, pause your media, skip to previous track, activate your voice assistant, or activate game mode. A triple tap will take you to the previous track, and you can assign it to other options provided. And a slider swipe is programmed to volume control, and you can make it switch tracks if you'd like to. A touch and hold is programmed to cycle between the ANC and transparency modes, and you can choose to have one more option of putting them off as well. Both left and right earbuds function in similar ways. The multi-device pairing works as seamlessly as it needs to. In fact, I have connected it to an Android device as well as an iPad OS device, and usually when I do the handover between devices, it does it pretty well. Now, if you do play on the iPad, if you push play whether on some video app or with audio in particular, it the media starts playing, but the audio doesn't come through until and unless the media is paused on the primary device, and it works the other way around as well. But if I am consuming any sort of media on my iPad and I get a phone call on my phone, it immediately hands over to the phone, and you can take the call immediately. So it's pretty instantaneous. You don't have to fiddle with it to hand over. In fact, I remember the OnePlus Buds Z2 did that, where you had to press and hold the earbud to latch over to the phone and make that function. So this doesn't do that. It is very seamless. If you're a gamer, the one thing that you'll be interested in is in its latency and overall response time whenever you're playing a game. So OnePlus does claim that this has a latency response time of just 94 milliseconds, which I'd say is fairly respectable. But when you have it off, there is definitely a difference, or should I say a lag in video. There is a slight lip sync off, and likewise even with gaming you will see a difference. So if you are consuming video or gaming, it does make sense to put this on. So instead of me telling you about how it functions, here's a quick demo to see how it would function with games as well as with videos. Would you still be willing to deal with that white noise of a one earbud? It's something that's genuinely been bothering me, and I think the more time I've spent with these earphones, they've become that much more apparent. Even at a lower volume of 5% while I'm trying to go off to sleep, it seems a little too loud, it's too intrusive, and I'm not really able to lull myself the way I am with another set of earphones that I'm currently testing. So would I recommend these earphones to anyone? It's pretty clear who OnePlus has targeted these earphones for. It's meant for the bass lovers or the people who enjoy listening to heavier set music. The active noise cancelling on this is pretty remarkable. In fact, OnePlus claims that this can reduce noises up to 49 decibels, and it does have a 4000 hertz sweep. Now, what that basically means is that a lot of earphones or headphones in the past didn't have that wider sweep, so a lot of high frequencies used to bleed in when the active noise cancelling was on, but this is able to capture a lot of those higher frequencies as well. Now, I do have a noisy road very close to where my studio is, and the one thing I've noticed with these earphones is a lot of the higher frequencies coming off of road noise from tires, be it trucks or cars in general, a lot of that is cut down, which older earphones couldn't handle. So I'd say the active noise cancelling on this is pretty good, and of course you can toggle through the few modes. Now, I do find the smart function to work pretty well. It in fact does adapt reasonably well to certain situations. Now, it is active in the sense it's reading how loud or soft certain environments are. So I think if it's on smart, it will use up more battery because it's constantly looking for the environment noise, more actively than when you put it locked onto a certain mode. So I do think some people might get a bit distracted if it's constantly shifting between certain modes. So I do think a lot of people will leave it on the maximum mode and leave it on that setting whenever they're using these earphones in particular. Now, this does have a series of microphones that is helping it with the active noise cancelling. In fact, it does have about 3 microphones per earphone, which is an impressive number. So those same 3 microphones that are helping with the active noise cancelling also contribute towards helping with the environmental noise cancelling for whenever you need to make any kind of phone calls. And of course, if you are interested in seeing how your voice would carry over to your recipient in a busy environment, there really is only one way to find out. So I'm calling you from the usual busy street where I do all of my call tests from, just to give you a sense of the environment that these earphones are going to be battling. Now, of course, there are a whole bunch of trucks, 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers applying on this road. You might get the occasional pressure horn, and of course there is some construction work going on over my left shoulder. So there is a lot that these earphones certainly have to do. So I have been on my camera microphone all this time to give you that sense of the amount of noise over here, and I'll switch over to the OnePlus Buds 3 right about now.
So these apparently have three microphones per earphone, which is a good number because more data points does mean that the algorithm can help isolate your voice over all the noise around you, of course. So this is the overall vocal tonality you can expect to carry over to your recipient whenever you're talking to them in this kind of setting. No, this is the worst kind of setting we can be in. This is bound to perform significantly better in controlled environments like offices or at home. So one of the things I do like to do is whenever I'm doing these tests, if a set of earphones does have active noise cancelling, I do like to switch between the modes. So I am in the Hey Melody app right now, and the maximum noise cancelling mode is on. And I'll switch over to from max to moderate. It just acknowledged the beep, so I can hear more of my surroundings here. In fact, I have to say in maximum, this does a lot better. So in this kind of situation, I would use max, and I'll switch over to mild. It is just acknowledged and it is letting in more noises in. So in this kind of setting, I do prefer the max variation. Now, when it is back in max now. Now, when I go on to smart, smart does normally figure out that it wants to be on the max volume because of the amount of noise that's going on over here, which I think is the ideal setting to have. Now, was there a shift in audio while I shifted to these active noise cancelling modes? I won't be able to know, but you are sitting in the reviewer seat right now. So you'd be able to tell whether or not there was a shift in the algorithm because there is a little more load on those microphones since they are handling the ANC as well as the ENC as well. I'll move over to the off mode. So right now, the ANC is completely off. So since it's off right now, I can hear everything coming in quite naturally. So I can hear the rumbles of these buses and all going by. And I'll shift over to the transparency mode. So with the transparency mode on, everything is feeding in. So I hope nobody blows their pressure on right now because that will just be quite uncomfortable. So like I said, you'd be the best to see if there is a shift when it comes to these modes while on a call. But it's nice that you can cycle between these modes even when on a call. So I hope that this demo has given you a better understanding of these earphones. And of course, I will see you back in the studio.
These come with dual dynamic drivers, with one being a 10.4 mm woofer, which should carry the lower mids and lower frequencies to you, and the other driver being a 6 mm tweeter, which should carry the higher frequencies and upper mid-range over to you as well. These have a frequency response of 15 Hz all the way up to 40,000 Hz, and they support the SPC AAC and LHDC codecs. On a volume front, these sit very comfortably at 35 to 40% volume. In fact, I'd say that's around the fun zone where these sit. Now, when you do go lower down in volume, it does tend to thin out, and it does thin out more so in the lower mid region. So when you're down at 25-20%, the lower mids will tend to sort of flatten out. They're not as enthusiastic. But the one thing that doesn't thin out surprisingly is the lower frequencies. So I suppose having that dedicated lower frequency woofer in fact does contribute towards keeping the low frequency alive even at lower volumes. I wouldn't recommend listening to this over 45 and 50% volume over long periods of time if you intend on preserving your hearing, because this can get particularly loud past 50%. When it comes to its soundstage, it's fairly similar to most other TWS earphones in this price range. It exists within a bubble in your head with a well-centered phantom channel and good left and right separation. Now, there is the OnePlus 3D audio, which you can switch on, but I'd say this is more suited for movies and gaming in particular. If you are a music enthusiast, you may notice that it tends to thin out a lot. In fact, it loses a lot of dynamics, so you will get the illusion of your sound coming from a little further out of you. So instead of within your head or within your skull, it will sit maybe an inch out of your ears, and you might get a sense of slight vertical stage. Now, there is an expansion with this on, but it just sounds like it's thrown a little more in the distance, so you do lose a bit of definition. So when it comes to music listening, I always keep this off, but I can see it being good fun, especially if you're gaming or watching a movie. On an imaging front, this also performs like most other TWS earphones. It's good enough to be able to zone into certain nuances and enjoy them. Now, don't expect audiophile levels of detail recovery. It's not really possible with something that's wireless. No doubt, if you do use the LHDC codec instead of the AAC and SBC, it will get finer, it will get sharper, it will get a little more crisper in its overall detail. But even if you're using just the AAC and SBC, it's just about fine, and it does just fine. In fact, I've tested this more so on the AAC codec because I don't have a device that supports the LHDC codec. So from what I've experienced with other earphones that have this kind of feature, those have LDAC support. So my phone does support that, and there is a jump, especially when it comes to the detail recovery. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't even listen to high resolution music, there's no point even considering thinking about the LHDC codec, because if you're not streaming from Apple Music, you're not going to get high-res music anyway. YouTube doesn't have it, Spotify doesn't have it, and so on. So don't overthink it, don't stress about it too much. But it does just fine with AAC and SBC, especially if you just want to zone in onto certain solos or even vocals in particular. High frequencies are carried over to you with a sense of purpose and detail, and it stays away from being brittle. This range does have a bit of a soft edge to it, so it's not fatiguing to listen to even for longer listening sessions. I was expecting these to be a little too elaborate here, but it's well controlled and easy on the ear for certain. Instruments in this range aren't as crisp as I'd like, but something tells me they will be if you listen to high-res audio and the LHDC codec. Listening to Dave Matthews Band perform so much to say. There's a lot going on in the higher frequencies in this track, and nothing is missed by these earphones really. These do a good job of presenting every little bit of percussion, whether up in front of you or if it's coming from further back in the distance. Mid frequencies are certainly on the recessed side of things, but it has more than enough presence to be able to enjoy and focus in on any lyrics. There is more of a recess in the lower mid range than the upper mids, which is bound to affect vocals. This does tend to make some vocals sound a little on the thinner side, especially female vocals. Again, this does seem a little pulled back when it comes to richness in detail, which I suspect is because the LHDC codec will unlock these earphones, so it's worthwhile checking to see if your device can support this codec. Listening to Adele perform Set Fire to the Rain, I do miss hearing the roundedness in her voice she usually has. She does sound nasal with these earphones, which she shouldn't, but the instruments that sit in this range do come through with a good amount of energy. It's just the lower mids that have this recess, and it's certainly been tuned like this for a reason. That reason being the lower frequencies, because that lower mid dip does accentuate the lower frequencies, and this kind of tuning does make these earphones sound big. This is very evidently what OnePlus was going for. Bass. These at times make me think I was listening to a set of headphones because of how large the bass sounds. You can throw anything EDM at these and they won't struggle. Even with lighter genres of music like jazz or blues, the bass has a lot more prominence than any other frequency. Is it bloated? A little, but it's good fun to listen to, and the good news for bass enthusiasts is that if you want to control it a little bit more, you can via the app. Listening to David Guetta's Without You featuring Usher, the bass comes into this song like it's just walked into a party it's hosting. It's large, energetic, and clearly wants to be the center of attention. I'm not a bass enthusiast myself, but I couldn't help but bob my head to this range's ability to bring a groove on. Now, if at any point you feel that the bass is too much or not enough, you can always go into the Hey Melody app and go into the EQ setting, and there's a lot of things you can do over here. Once you go into the Sound Master EQ setting in the app, it has 4 presets. I've reviewed these in the balance mode, which I quite like. Then you can move to Serenade, which gets a little softer in the bass and boosts the highs ever so slightly with better prominence in the mid-range. Then you get Bass, which makes this even more enthusiastic in the lows than what it is in its default preset. It kicks harder here with a good amount of size, and you also get Bold, which controls the bass a little bit compared to the bass mode, but I don't see bass enthusiasts using this mode. You get a bass wave mode, which will let you control the intensity of giving you a -5 and +5 slider to control your bass. This works with each mode you choose, so it's nice to fine tune how you like your bass. Then you can use a custom EQ which has 6 bands of tuning and gives you a ±6 dB gain, which is always a nice welcome when it comes to customizing your sound. So to sum up, when it comes to the overall build of this, I really do like how the case has been made, because a lot of brands tend to have like a powder coated finish, so you get soft thumbnail scratches on the surface maybe a few weeks after getting it, but this does seem very premium. It is not glossy, it is matte, but it's got a metallic look to it, so it's very nicely done. It's very smartly done. The overall look and feel of this screams premium. In fact, I love the way it's been debossed. The brand name has been debossed into the front, on the top of the lid. It does look very nice. Now, the only negative of this, I'd say that it can be a dust catcher in time, and cleaning it is not going to be easy. In fact, Something tells me if you were to try cleaning it might scratch up, but at least when it's new, it looks absolutely stunning. What I don't like is the finish on the earbuds, because it is bound to show a lot of smudges with just finger oils. So every time you interact with it, I have noticed it does hold on to finger grease like mad. So in fact, right now while recording this and while testing it, it's been getting a lot warmer. So your fingers are bound to be a little more sweaty. So I always wipe it down before putting it back into the case, because I just don't like seeing greasy earphones whenever I open the lid. So I'd say this is my only gripe with it, really. And when it comes to the overall comfort of these, well, I've worn these for hours at a stretch, and I haven't felt any discomfort. Now, I do have a smaller left concha, so usually I do notice some pain in my left ear or discomfort with some earphones. I haven't felt that with this. So I'd say it's been designed well, and it should be comfortable even if you have slightly smaller ears. On a feature front, it's got everything you need. It's got Bluetooth version 5.3. I haven't had any drops in connectivity with this. It's been perfectly fine. Its active noise cancelling, I think, is absolutely sensational. In fact, it might be better than some headphones I've heard in the past few years. So I'd say as a performer on ANC, it's absolutely terrific. And then, of course, its touch controls work fine. I haven't had any gripes with it. The Hey Melody app in particular, I have to say, now I first started using Hey Melody 3 or 4 years ago when I first started this channel. And it's come a very, very long way. The amount of stuff you can do, the stability, the features, the way the functionality, it's really come a long way. So it's nice to see that you can control this set of earphones and some other brands as well with the Hey Melody app, and it works pretty flawlessly, and it is fun to use even when you're interacting with the app. The one thing I genuinely do like with these earphones that I think a lot of earphones have just missed out on completely is in fact, whoever's had it has moved away from it. The slide controls for the volume. Now, having a slide control to me is more natural. It is more, well, call it analog if you want. It's like reaching for a volume knob and knowing that turning it right will increase the volume and turning it anti-clockwise will reduce it. So likewise, you know that if you swipe or slide up, the volume will go up. You know that if you slide down, the volume will come down. Whereas everybody else is doing a single tap or a squeeze gesture. Sliding is the one feature I think that should be made an absolute standard on all earphones for volume controls. It's just a natural way to do it. Everyone will be a lot more comfortable. It is less intrusive, and it's one less thing you have to try and remember with the controls, because this is the most natural gesture for volume up. And I really like that OnePlus has brought this onto this set of earphones. I don't think the previous Buds Z2 had something. It had touch controls. It didn't have anything sliding or swiping. So this is a very nice welcome. Like I mentioned, the active noise cancelling is pretty damn cool. In fact, it does have those few modes in the app you can toggle between. I have found it to be a very good performer, especially in noisy environments. In fact, the higher frequencies coming from fan blades or road noises off of tires rubbing against road surface, higher hissing sounds, it does very well. I did play back a demo of an aircraft through my speakers over here, and it did surprisingly well. The active noise cancelling, I say, is sensational. So even if you're traveling a lot, I say these will be perfectly fine for any of those flights. On a sound front, you have to keep in mind this is not targeting an audiophile, but if you are an audiophile, make sure that your phone does have LHDC, the LHDC codec support, because you are bound to get a little more crispness and detail. Now, these earphones do sound like they are wanting. They do sound like they want to give you more crispness and detail and clarity. It's almost like it's screaming to want to give you that much more detail, but I can't. At least I couldn't during my testing because my phone does not support the LHDC codec in particular. So that's one thing to keep in mind. If you are not someone who listens to high-res music and you're not worried about that, forget about everything I said about it lacking in crispness, because it is good enough. You can zone in onto all your certain nuances and details. Now, it's not meant to do that. This set of earphones is not meant to be the best detailed set of earphones. This is fine in the highs, it's fine in the mids, but where it really shines is in the lower frequencies, because this has a very big sound to it. In fact, I'd say it's spot on for games and spot on for movies, especially with that expansive soundstage option you have with the OnePlus 3D audio. It's spot on for all that kind of content. Now, if you are into entertainment, you want to be entertained while you're traveling, be it by plane or train or metro, or even if you're in a cab, this is going to do it, because it's going to cut out the rest of the world with the active noise cancelling very well, and it has a big sound. In fact, there were times that I genuinely did think I was wearing a set of headphones. So All in all, I'd say it's a terrific set of headphones, and it's targeted towards somebody who wants to be entertained and wants big sound and big music and big movies and big games, of course. This is not, however, I feel, for the audiophile. So considering all of this, I'd say it's terrific value for money. And how much does it cost at the time of recording this video? Well, let's jump straight into that right now. At the time of recording this, this does have a maximum retail price of 6,499 rupees, but you can buy this for 5,499 rupees. And in fact, I'll leave the links down below for you if you would like to buy this. And is this value for money? Well, honestly speaking, there are some other products in this price range. They are slightly differently tuned on a sound front. I don't know how they sound up against one another, but maybe if you do want to know how they sound up against one another in the same price range, let me know in the comments. If you want me to do a comparison, I'd be happy to do it, just to see what the differences in nuances between these few earphones versus their build, features and their sound. But overall, I'd say this is a nice set of earphones to own. It looks premium. I'd say it sits way above its price range on a build front. The sound is okay for me. It's personally, it's not something that I'd want to use every day. I do consider myself an audiophile, so I would prefer so much more detail, so much more stage from a set of earphones in particular. But overall, I'd say this is a pretty good swing and a hit from OnePlus in particular. So there you have it. I hope you found this video helpful and informative, and I hope that I've helped you make some sort of purchase decision. If you would like to help support this channel, I'm sure you know exactly how to. But of course, thank you for tuning into Paul's POV for some sound advice.